Welcome to Maritime Pakistan, your gateway to the fascinating world of oceans and the opportunities they present to every one of us. Our goal is to explore the shared heritage of the seas and oceans to achieve global prosperity. Today's discussion explores the book, The Sea in History, The Ancient World. Our discussion will focus on the 10th chapter, Watercraft at the Beginning of History, the case of third-millennium Southern Mesopotamia.
Okay, so when you picture ancient Mesopotamia, what comes to mind? Probably rivers, maybe some desert landscapes, the famous cradle of urban culture.
But what if I told you the sea was just as crucial to its incredible rise? In this explainer, we're investigating how the people of southern Mesopotamia, more than 5,000 years ago, became absolute masters of both the river and the sea.
You see, this civilization wasn't just defined by the famous Tigris and Euphrates rivers. It was a whole complex web of canals. And, crucially, it had direct access to the nearby Arabian Gulf.
And these waterways weren't just little streams. They were the superhighways of the ancient world, the main arteries for trade and for people, linking cities deep inland all the way out to the open ocean. So the key thing to get here is that this wasn't just a river culture. No, it was a true water culture, through and through.
So the big question is, how do we know all of this? I mean, we're talking about 5,000 years ago. Well, it's a bit like historical detective work. We piece the whole story together using three main types of clues. First up, and probably the most detailed evidence we have, comes from these ancient texts written in cuneiform. If you're not familiar, cuneiform is one of the very first systems of writing ever developed. And these aren't just stories. We're talking about detailed administrative texts, clay tablets that meticulously record everything from the wood used to build a ship to what was in its cargo hold. What's really cool is we even find kings, like the legendary Sargon of Akkad, bragging about all the international ships docked at his capital. But texts can only tell us so much, right? The most mind-blowing physical proof, the real smoking gun, actually comes from hundreds of miles away in what is now Oman. And this is where the detective story gets really good. Archaeologists found these little fragments of bitumen, that's a natural tar used to waterproof boats. Through chemical analysis, they proved this bitumen could only have come from Mesopotamia. And the kicker? The tar still had the imprints of the reed bundles from the boats they were built with. It's direct physical proof. I mean, that's the smoking gun right there. It proves without a doubt that Mesopotamian ships were venturing far out into the Gulf, not just puttering around in their local rivers. So that begs the question, what were these ships actually like? Well, they built a whole variety of boats, each one perfectly tailored for its job. You had your basic flat-bottomed reed boats for cruising the local canals, but then you had the big guns, the sea-going ships. And get this, these weren't built in some backyard. A highly organized institution called the marsa, kind of like an ancient port authority, had massive dockyards that employed up to 1,000 people. The real workhorse of their fleet was a standard-sized cargo ship measured in a unit called a gur. The most common size you see in the records, a 60-gur boat, could hold about 18 cubic meters of stuff. Now, to put that into perspective for you, that's roughly half of a small modern shipping container. That's a serious amount of cargo for the ancient world. Okay, so they had this impressive fleet of ships. What were they doing with them? Well, they were fueling a massive, and I mean massive, and incredibly profitable trade network, a kind of 5,000-year-old global network. And this wasn't some shady back alley operation. The kings themselves, guys like Ernanche of Lagash, were shouting it from the rooftops. They openly boasted about their international trade because it was the absolute cornerstone of their power and their kingdom's wealth. You have to remember, Mesopotamia itself didn't have a lot of natural resources like wood or metal, so this trade was essential. It was a classic import-export system. They'd ship out things they had in abundance, like wool textiles and barley, and in return, they'd import the raw materials they desperately needed. We're talking copper from Oman, timber from Bahrain, and even luxury goods like gold, all the way from the Indus Valley. This trade network was so vital, so absolutely crucial, that when it was disrupted and then restored, kings would celebrate it as a major achievement. And it was all managed by specialized seafaring merchants. But the impact went way beyond just economics. See, boats weren't just tools for making money. They were so much more than that. They were woven deeply into the very fabric of Mesopotamian culture, their religion, and their concept of power. You can see just how important the sea was by looking at their myths. It's incredible, really. Their mythological texts describe their gods journeying by boat to the exact same places. Meluhha, Dilmun, the very same trading partners we see on the cargo manifests. So for them, the lines between commerce, religion, and the sea, they just didn't exist. It was all one and the same. And this connection to the water followed them even into death. Archaeologists find all these little boat models in graves, which tells us they believed the journey to the afterlife was also a voyage across water. Think about that. From birth to death, from their economy to their gods, the boat was absolutely central to their entire worldview. We hope that you liked today's video. Please share your comments and subscribe to explore other similar opportunities. Post your questions in the comments section for future videos.